Welcome to Hearts and Stripes, your one-stop shop for all things military marriage. I hope our discussions and interviews equip you with the tools to start or grow a beautiful marriage as we address the benefits and challenges of mil marriage. I believe life's most precious moments are worth celebrating, so I'll help you design your marriage blueprint in alignment with your core values. Thank you for joining us, and remember to rate, subscribe, and review. Let's do this. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hearts and Stripes podcast. This is your host, Bree Carroll, and I am so excited to bring you another Heart to Heart. We are going to keep things going with this theme of weddings because it is really wedding season, y'all. Behind the scenes, I have had the opportunity to execute some of these weddings that were postponed from 2020. Now in 2021, and it is truly wedding season around these parts. So I thought I would dedicate some of these episodes to get you guys in the mood, thinking especially for those new couples who are just starting off their mil marriage, they're planning their nuptials, they're figuring things out. I wanted to provide, some resources for you guys, especially because it's just as important that you start your marriage off on the right foot. And as I like to say, wedding planning kind of sets yourself up for success when it comes to kind of planning for your marriage. You kind of take the same tools and tricks and tips and the things that you learn along the way, you practice that on a larger scale in your marriage. So I'm really excited because today my guests happen to be fellow podcasters. I am so excited. They are actually the producers and hosts of the Big Wedding Planning podcast. I absolutely love them. It is Christy Matthews and Michelle Martinez. And I love that they have been doing the Big Wedding Planning podcast for over 4 years. It is a weekly podcast and it's dedicated to all things wedding for anyone involved in planning a wedding. They have a super inclusive platform. They talk about a variety of topics. My favorite episodes tend to be Yawas, You Ask, We Answer, and what they try to do with their podcast, and they actually do a fantastic job of doing it, is getting people to listen, learn so that they can plan that wedding. I actually had the opportunity of being on the Big Wedding Planning podcast, episode number 211. So check that out as I talk all about military weddings. And I just had to have them on, Hearts and Stripes, because they have a new tool, a new program that could really serve this community. And I'm really excited to dive in and talk to them kind of on their perspectives of being fellow planners, this new tool that they have and they are bringing to the world. That kind of probably came out of this downtime from the pandemic, which I absolutely love all the new and fresh and creative ideas that are coming out of the pandemic so that you guys can be mil marriage strong. All right, everyone. Welcome, Michelle and Christy, to Hearts and Stripes podcast. Say hello, ladies.
Hello, ladies.
Hello.
And gentlemen.
Yes. I'm so excited to be chatting with you guys. Like I mentioned in the intro, I absolutely love the Big Wedding Planning podcast. And if you guys are not subscribed over there, you guys are missing out. So please do share, subscribe, review, all those things. So Michelle and Christy, I would love for you guys to start things off and share a little bit about your marriage stories.
We love this question.
Yeah. Christy, you want to share our quote? Marriage
Well, it's
story?
a tale as old as time. In that essentially Michelle was my boss. She was running basically one woman operation out in the Bay Area, based in San Francisco when I lived there. And I was like 22, 23.
Just a
like,
young lady.
yes, just a
20s.
wayward, just didn't, I knew what I wanted to do with my life, and I was an actress and I was performing a lot and I was waiting tables and I was a nanny and all the things that actors do. But anyways, at some point I did think I don't want to wait tables for the rest of my life. And that's the main way that I'm making money. But all of the things that I do as an actress with my theater company, which I had started with friends from college, and we were performing a lot, but we had to do all the work to perform. And to put on a show is very similar, as you know, to putting on a wedding.
Very true.
We were like setting up the chairs literally and like buying the beer to sell at our concession stand at these little places we were renting, these venues we were renting. So at some point I literally sat down and made a list of all the things that I thought I was capable of and good at, like what's in my wheelhouse and what other career could these things lend themselves to. And I thought about event planning and specifically wedding planning. And I did have little stars in my eyes about what a wedding planner does, but I was also really ready to like actually work, like roll up my sleeves and work. So then I had to find somebody who would let me. And this was back at the time where you had to like send out this is pre-LinkedIn, anything,
Pre-Pinterest.
Right.
Yeah, pre-Pinterest.
Yeah.
Send out a resume, basically, a hard copy. And I just sent them I looked for businesses like Michelle's, which is Allure Consulting, and that were very small and maybe like run out of the home, like somebody that I could help with every aspect was kind of the pitch. But when I pitched, I would say I struck out with Michelle that first time.
Okay, first off, I was really pregnant with my first child.
Yes, I've heard this.
You've heard this. So she called my cell phone, which a lot of you listening probably don't know this, but a long time ago, you used to pay per minute on your cell phone.
Yes.
Okay. And it was like, it was pricey. It was expensive. We had a landline. Everybody used landlines. You used a cell phone. It was like, because you meant business or you were, you know what I mean? Like I had to have a cell phone.
Right.
But anyway, I don't know how she got my cell number because what was listed and everything was my landline for the business. Right. So I'm like laying on my bed. I'm probably eating in bed, watching a show. Literally at that point, I remember that I was kind of freaking out because I was huge. I knew this baby was coming. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, like I had that pressure on me. Like I'm going to raise my baby. But what am I going to do with these weddings? Like, what am I going to do with all of these mostly brides back then calling? They're not going to want to they don't care that I have a baby.
Yes.
And I wasn't in the position financially where I was like, oh, I can hire somebody full time. Nor did I have the time to go train anybody to do everything. So she called at that moment and I was like, what is this number? What?
Yes.
And I'm like, hello. And I think Christy, you since said that I kind of was like a little, and
it was flat. I mean,
because I didn't say like, good afternoon, Allure Wedding Consultant.
Because I thought I was calling an office or at least an office line. Gotcha. I didn't realize, I don't know how I got that number. And
great research. That's how you got it. Great research.
She was good at Google back then when people weren't even that good at Google. But anyway, so that's what happened. So she called me. And at that point I was like, I just don't have time for this. Because she asked if I had gotten her resume and I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't, I can't.
Right. I'm pregnant. I'm not even.
Don't you know I'm going through a crisis and you're calling my cell phone randomly. And by the way, I had interns before Christy. I had young women who were like, I want to be a wedding planner. I'll work for free. And I was like, okay, cool. And then they'd get to my home office. And I had an actual office in my home downstairs. But once they noticed that it wasn't all pretty flowers tasting and making, DIY projects, that it was basically, 90% administrative work. They were out. They're like, this isn't for me. And then I would waste all this time. So I was like, the last thing I want to do right now is talking to somebody who wants to be a wedding planner and, you know.
Which I totally get. And, you know, and that also is a calculated risk when you're cold calling people, essentially being like, can I work for you? And I didn't even get into like, I will work for free. I just want to learn, like, I'll come to you. And in about a week, she called back because I had said, did you get my resume? Did you get what I sent you? And she was like, I don't know, you know, thanks for calling. But then, and I crossed her name off my little list. I'm sure. It was like, oh no, what am I doing?
Are we allowed to cuss? I'm sorry.
You're allowed to cuss. We'll allow it.
Okay, thanks.
And then she called back and basically said, you know, when you called, I wasn't expecting anybody. I don't think you. I don't think you.
I was thinking I was in better hormonal mood at that day.
Yes, that's a whole thing. You had another person on the phone at that point.
Yes, I had forward thinking, potentially opening the door, Michelle, and she said, kind of threw down. I mean, I don't know if I did not meet you first. You said, if you're really serious, there's a wedding like next weekend in Sonoma. So it'd be a little bit of a trek if you can get yourself there and, you know, help my associate. So she had one person taking a lot of these weddings because she was literally about to have the baby any minute, and help her and kind of do on-site assisting for her. Then, you know, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, I will do that. Okay. And I got myself there, and it was
very good.
It was a learning experience. It almost got rained out.
They had to like right into the fire.
Yes.
I love this.
I didn't know who I was, you know, the girl I was meeting was like, knew that a pair of hands was coming to help, but that was it. And she was relatively new also, and a little like not as good at dealing with.
She had assisted me on weddings quite a bit, but now I was like, okay, you got to take this.
You run the show. Yep.
Yeah, you got to do this one. And
it was a good, it was a wedding that I learned. It wasn't like some small wedding where you could say like, oh, well, they're going to be harder than that. It was a good first experience.
Yeah.
And then from there started working for Michelle. So,
and there blossomed our relationship.
I know. Let me recap for everyone. So what happened was Christy was looking at all her future loves, and she had to pick one, and she cold called one hopeful who shut her down, who shut her down completely. After Michelle thought about it, she was like, this could be my person. So she calls back and has them meet basically like the in-laws. She throws her into the fire to meet the in-laws first. And
the
then
in-laws being weddings.
And then they decide that they will live happily ever after, working together to produce weddings. But that relationship blossomed into so much more. Tell us about the podcast. How did you get into the podcast, and how did that relationship kind of grow and foster?
So super quickly, I'll take this one. Christy and I had been working together for years at this point. That Christy and I started when I was pregnant. So that was 2007, around 2015. And then, you know, Christy ended up getting certified, doing full wedding, you know, working for me. Yeah. And then I moved away to Boston. She took over my business for a few years because I went into full mama mode. And I'm like, I won't be there very long. You just keep it going in San Francisco. Fast forward, Christy's in Texas. I'm still in Boston. I'm doing weddings in the East Coast and the West Coast. Christy started her own gig in Dallas, and we would always keep in touch. You know,
I love that you guys were able to navigate that. That is like one of my favorite parts of this story, by the way.
We're wedding planners, Brie.
I know. Listen, everybody in the industry is not just like kumbaya. So I love that part about your story.
So we would keep in touch, not like we do now. It would be every couple months, or we'd email or text. And we're on the phone and I'm starting to get antsy. I'm like, I got to do something. I want to do something. I know I want to do something. And so I'm running all these ideas past her. Let's build this huge platform. I can see it now. Digital. giving her all these ideas. And Christy's like, no, no.
It's a no for me. I wasn't
it's a
like,
no for me.
Yeah, that's
it's
a
no
dumb
for
idea
me, but
for
you enjoy. And I was like, okay, what about a podcast? Like we could just talk, like you could talk. We could talk about weddings. We could talk. She's like, how would that work? And I said, I'll figure it out. I'll figure out how to do it. And I'll, we just buy the equipment. I'll let you know how to do it. And then we'll just talk. And she's like, okay, we could do that. So that was 2000, we started recording, we started producing it ourselves. We got Christy's brother-in-law happens to be like a old school podcasting genius who, side note, is the producer of the Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend podcast.
Whoop, whoop. Look at that.
So he hooked us up. My husband is an insanely talented creative director, advertising whiz. So we had some good ingredients there. Plus, Christy and I knew our shit. We're good.
Correct.
So there you go. That's how it started. We released about 6 episodes, I think, in November of 2016. And here we are. Almost 5 years later, without fail, one episode every Wednesday. We don't go in seasons. Every week.
Every week. They are committed. They are dedicated. And translation for all of that, the podcast is just downright good. So, like I said before, shameless plug, go check out the Big Wedding Planning Podcast. But I love that you guys continue to serve your community in so many different ways through the podcast, giving advice on wedding planning, everything you need to know about navigating a wedding, everything. And what I love about it, and when I say everything, y'all, I really mean everything, like navigating cultural norms, navigating guests, navigating what if I don't want a big wedding? What if I want a small wedding? Or how do I do this thing? Or where do I even start? And I love that you continue to be a resource, because that's what we're all about here at Hearts and Stripes Podcast, equipping people so that they don't have to go through this thing alone. They don't have to cause that tension in their relationship. They could get equipped with these resources to kind of help them navigate as they go through life together. So I love the podcast as a resource, but can I just say that I'm like even more excited for your newest resource that you have worked blood, sweat, and tears, put out into this world. So guys, their relationship has formed a masterclass baby. So we are so excited to welcome the baby that has come out of this dynamic duo. Tell us a little bit about the masterclass and what is all in it. Like, why would our military couples, why do they need this? I know why they need this, and I will definitely tell y'all, but I want to hear it from the creators. Why is this something that you guys had to put into the world, and kind of what sparked that?
Christy, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that I grew up on an Air Force base. So I grew up in Okinawa, Japan, at Kadena, and I think it was until 4th grade. We moved around a lot until 4th grade, and we settled down. And I remember moving from off base to on base, or getting, the housing. And I was old enough to remember these things and remember how the moms, the women in my memory, were always there. It was always, no matter where we were, there was always a community. And this is a kind of a full circle, like anecdote. I'm trying to say that, like, we know how important community building is, and you don't plan a wedding or any big life event in a bubble, even if it's small, even if it's just the two of you, even if you elope. There are people you want to share the experience with, whether it's planning or on the day of. And if this past year has taught us anything, it's that we can, still have very strong relationships with people that we don't get to see very often. So we were creating this masterclass during the pandemic for the past year, and our community as hosts of this podcast, like, were invaluable in helping us to create this. Our community of listeners and people in the industry, but mostly people planning their wedding, talking to us about what they were going through, what they needed, what they were sad about, what was really like fucked up about having to reschedule 5 different times and then finally be like, forget it.
Yes.
Like the podcast has always aimed to be instructive and also to share diverse narratives. Like we want to share people's stories. But the masterclass was our way of being like, we have the knowledge and we have this community to tap into, so we can actually help, like truly, literally help on a different level, where somebody pays for this masterclass, maybe somebody that can't afford a wedding planner, somebody that's moving a lot and doesn't know where they will even be planning their wedding once it comes up, or is planning their wedding for the 3rd time and it's shifted so much that they don't even know which way is up anymore.
Right.
We thought hard about how to put together tools that could be accessed during any phase of all of this. So doing the podcast is like kind of a little bit like, who do we think we are? We're not journalists, we're not professionals, but the masterclass, that is who we are. Like we do know how to do all of that stuff. So we feel grateful and proud to be able to put it out. And at this point, every person that buys it, I mean, maybe we'll be selling millions, next year, but right now, we're still very much in contact with the people that buy it. So they're telling us like, oh my gosh, I'm on the chapter about wedding day timeline and it's a lifesaver, or your budget template just saved my future finances, or whatever. They're telling us what they
I love that
are experiencing.
so
So it's a living document at this point. And the guiding light was always, how do we help people? And in this case, it's all virtual, it's all downloadable. So how do we help people help themselves?
Yes.
Was kind of the place that it went.
And that's what I love about the masterclass, especially in this community of serving military couples. I love that this virtual world has become like truly a thing, because it's always been something that we've held to very tightly. Like I know couples who plan, their spouse may be deployed and it is just them trying to figure it out on their own. Maybe they take a chance and hire a planner, or maybe they don't. And they're really navigating something, not just on their own, but in a new place. They haven't ever, like, they've just transplanted there. They don't know anyone and they're trying to navigate this thing. And I love the masterclass because you're right. It gives them a set of tools, a framework from your expertise that they can lean on. And then I love the fact that not only do you have the masterclass, you have the community that was built even from the podcast, so they can get in community with other listeners, other people, and really just tap into that as they go through their wedding planning journey.
Yeah. And it's what's lovely about it, and what's helpful for couples who are not in the same place all the time, is that it's a digital course. It's self-paced. It's video. There's about, in total, 5.5 hours of video tutorials, like where we introduce the lesson, right? Like, but priority and budget. Here's what this means. Here's what we're going to talk about, because we really want you to wrap your brain around this right now. Here's how you're going to use these downloadables that come with this lesson. And here's Christy and I now on the screen actually using the template. Here's how you fill it in. So what's lovely is that, one partner could be at home and, take the lesson and then be like, babe, okay, you got to watch this. This one especially is important for you. Can you watch it? You could even watch it on your phone. I downloaded the spreadsheet in Google Drive. I'm sharing it with you. You put in your priorities. I'll put in mine. We'll fill in the spreadsheet together. So both of them can be involved as much as possible. We know there are people deployed. We know it's not always possible, right? But it is a way where they can share and work on certain things together, not being
Yes.
physically in the same place.
And I love that. I think you brought up a good point. That's awesome, especially when it comes to, in a deployed location, depending on where they are. This would be a pleasant distraction and a pleasant way to really connect with your spouse who's not who you're geographically separated from. Like, this is a huge benefit to really feel like you're doing this together. As a lot of times, and I'm talking to all my military spouses out there, a lot of times when our service member is gone, the weight of all the things, right? Hashtag all the things falls on us. So this is an awesome way to kind of switch that up, change that, get them involved as much or as little as they like to, and really share these modules and these lessons and walk through it together. So I absolutely, absolutely love that. For anyone who is interested in um, investing in the masterclass, we will definitely link that in the show notes so that you guys can check it out. And hey, I'm not just talking to my male couples that are newlyweds. I'm also talking to you guys out there, yes, you, who never really had a wedding. Maybe you're thinking about doing a vow renewal and you've never walked through the planning process. This is also an amazing resource for you too, if you're thinking of having some type of celebration for your union. So it's not too late. This really can serve a lot of people in this community. I know personally, and we actually did have a wedding. We had two. We like did a church elopement, and then we had a wedding a year later. Well, guess what, guys? For my 10-year, we're having another
Do
celebration.
it.
So you
Hey.
know what? And I really feel like, especially on this podcast, it's all about celebrating marriage, right? So why not treat
Yeah.
yourself, guys? If you never had that celebration, treat yourself. Think about how you can celebrate your union, and by all means, use the master class to help guide you in doing so.
Yeah, I think again, obviously we created this ourselves, but it's something that honestly, and this is the entire time that we were building it, I was thinking, I want to make this something that I would have bought. Like I would have wanted this when I was planning.
Yes.
And you know what else, Brie? I would have wanted this when I was starting out as a wedding planner. I mean, I
Yes,
would have
Michelle.
wanted,
Mhm.
Yeah.
like another planner who's been in the business for over 20 years in the wedding industry. I would have wanted that planner's templates. I
Yes.
would have wanted instructions on exactly how to do things from that planner. We also have mothers of this one mom. She's so sweet. Her two sons are engaged.
Yeah.
She's helping them plan. I think one of her sons is out of the country. We've got mamas out there helping to plan.
Mhm.
And again, she is using the master class, and she is also, working online with her future daughter-in-laws, and just helping where she can.
That's
So
so good.
there's something in it for everyone, whether you're, vow renewal, whether you've already started, whether you're at the middle phase, end phase. We created it in a way that like it'd be easy to jump into whatever phase you're in, and we're giving a discount to your listeners
Woo,
because
woo. Listen, did you hear that? They are giving a Hearts and Stripes discount for you guys. I am super
yes.
grateful for that. We will also link that in the show notes so that you guys can take advantage, because let's put it all out there. We're going to break this thing down.
Mhm.
Everyone out there who is listening, if you are thinking of planning a wedding, do not do it ill advised. You guys
Mhm.
know I'm all about phases. We talk about the care method here on the podcast. We talk about not reinventing the wheel on here and using proven systems so that you can thrive in your marriage and in your relationship. As a wedding planner, I have seen couples, marriages, or marriages to be almost not make it because they did not survive the wedding planning process.
Yep.
Utilizing these tools will posture your wedding and your marriage to be more fruitful and thrive, because you are using the expertise of people who can help you troubleshoot and just guide you. And just some things that I heard as you were talking about the masterclass, they're asking what your priorities are for
Mhm.
your celebration. You're talking about a budget. Again, these are things that you need to start practicing now as you're planning a wedding so that you can take into your marriage. So I love, love, love this. And I'm so grateful that you're giving our Hearts and Stripes listeners a discount. So thank you so much, ladies.
Yeah, we are so happy to do it. We're happy to support anyone. We're thankful that you have us on your podcast. We were thankful to have you on our podcast, Bree. I'm sorry.
I know.
It was a great interview, and anybody wanting to listen to that, I think it's episode number 211.
211.
And it's called Military Weddings, and Bree was on our pod. And yeah, and if you can go to the Big Wedding Planning Masterclass, that's the website, and you can see a little, we share how it looks. There's even, if you're not buying it, there's a place for us to send you wedding planning tips. You put your email address in there, but we're here to help just like you are. You help your community. We don't want you all doing this blind, going into wedding planning, knowing nothing and wasting time and wasting money, which is, it doesn't matter what your wedding budget is. That's a lot of money for you. And that's an investment. So
yeah, absolutely. When we were talking about who to talk to about our masterclass, and we were like, we have to talk to Bree and get on her podcast if we can. But it was because we were like, oh, it's a perfect fit. It's a perfect fit for your audience. Yes. And we know military couples face unique challenges. Absolutely. And I also know that like sometimes communication, it's not the same as like, sometimes it's not the same potentially as like my husband being out of town. I text him, I have a question, he's going to text me back, even though he's across the country. Like there's potentially less time to communicate. And then also more time goes by in between FaceTime and getting to actually hear, your love's voice on the phone. And I would think you don't want to spend maybe the half an hour you get with them arguing about how much you're going to spend on the lighting that the DJ just proposed, or talking like, I've asked you what you think about crab cakes and you still haven't answered me. And I don't know, but your mom's asking me if we're going to have that. And I don't know what to tell her because you haven't given your opinion. And I hope that an investment into a masterclass where you're like, okay, we've agreed, we need some help. We're going to buy this masterclass. And then we're kind of going to like do what they say. And that like, it helps to guide someone to be like, well, Michelle and Christy said we should do this before this, and they included an entire worksheet about why. So I'll just do that, and then we can touch base about it. But we're big, big proponents. And I was going to save this for the time when you asked us what our like main advice is. So
I don't
want to like hijack you.
No, we're here. Give it to us. We want to know.
This is what we do. We're podcasters, and we're just like, okay, let's move on to
We're going to ask ourselves the question and then answer it.
I love it.
No, but I was going to save this. This was in my back pocket for like, what's your main advice? Because we're big proponents of like, take a deep breath. Don't let wedding planning rule your life. It shouldn't be a crazy experience. Take a deep breath, stay grounded, but also take wedding planning breaks. Like, just don't be, we're all about like, talk to each other about other things, like connect in other ways. Don't let this like engulf your entire relationship, because there's ups and downs and wins and losses with wedding planning. And there's a lot of waiting. There's a lot of spending of money. It can feel like a chore, and it doesn't have to. And even if it does a little bit, it shouldn't take over your whole relationship. If you have limited time, maybe to talk to each other or connect, or you're both working hard, or you haven't even unpacked your house yet, like you have other things to deal with and to be present for. We're in the wedding industry and we make our money this way, but we do not think your wedding day is the most important day of your entire life. And you don't think that.
Right.
So like, take this all with a heavy dose of like good, healthy perspective. It is a celebration. It's a celebration about you. You should do what you want to do. Like, we're all about that, but also just don't let it be everything in your life for 18 months or 6 months or however long you're in the planning process. So our guide, our course, will help with that, because it keeps you on track, and things can be simplified, and you can just take a break.
I love that.
Take a wedding planning break.
So well said. You're absolutely right. It is a great way to celebrate, but it cannot consume you and all of your time. And I will add this in there, especially for if you're separated while planning this wedding, you are unsure of the circumstances surrounding the deployment. Sometimes they are able to tell you, sometimes they are not. And you do not want your first thing out of your mouth to come out to be, why didn't you, when it relates to planning a wedding, because that's only going to form a bigger wedge. So I love how you broke that down to say, with this guide, it simplifies and really hand holds throughout the wedding planning process so that you can take a break and focus on the things, the priority thing, which is their marriage, their connection, and that time that they get to communicate. Yeah. And I love that so
You're
much.
Creating a new family. There's not a masterclass for that. Like,
yeah.
That's the bigger thing. The
Do
wedding
we need to make
is,
one?
Yeah, Michelle's like, actually, she's already done an outline.
I got it now. I'm going to start.
She's ready to propose it. Watch, she's going to like roll out a whiteboard in a second and be like, here's what I was thinking. But you know what I'm saying? There's bigger, you're experiencing life together. There's bigger than the wedding. So if a masterclass or any, if this guide can help, you can take a break. You can pick it back up. We will not let you forget anything. That was one huge thing we heard from people was like, I'm just in the final, I have like a month and I'm waking up in the middle of the night worried that I'm going to forget something. What am I forgetting? How do I know what I don't know? Well, we have a checklist for that. So it's just like, once you see it on the checklist, you can let go of it, keeping you up at night.
Yes.
So it's all about like streamlining the process so that you have time and like space in your head for the other stuff. Cause the other stuff is probably more important.
That's so good. Michelle, what advice do you have, since we're here talking about some advice for couples? It can be in regard to your planning process, or it could just be advice for these married couples. What do you have?
Well, I don't have the experience of, well, let me take that back. I have an experience with my spouse, my husband, having traveled a lot while we've been married. And we've been married this year. It will be 20 years in November.
Woo!
So
we love that. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, like, our first child was born within 2 weeks of his life. My husband was in, Europe for 2 weeks. So
well, yeah, there's that.
There's that. It's different. But I will say one thing that we have always done, is we have this thing, and still to this day we do it. We like to drink coffee together in bed in the morning. Like, he'll bring it to me, or I'll bring, whoever wakes up first. We get it ready the night before. We'll drink some coffee in bed and we'll chat or we'll watch a show. But we've always, spent some quality time together, even if it's like, 20 minutes. Like, it's a thing. And it's miraculously, after all these years, and actually during COVID, we've actually gotten to like each other a lot more, which is so kind of,
look at that,
weird. I feel like even yesterday we were like laughing and making fun of each other and joking around. I'm like, why do we like each other so much? But I mean, you just gotta like have fun. But I feel like having something, whether it's coffee or whatever you do on a ritual together, just keep with it. Just do it. It's a nice thing. Yeah.
It's a touchstone.
Yeah.
That was amazing advice. I absolutely agree. Definitely something to create couple rituals. I love that. And I love the idea for any coffee or tea drinkers, have that time before the kids run in, before life happens, spend some quality time together. But before I let you ladies go, Michelle, Christy, I have to ask you my favorite question to all my guests. It is for our heart tracks. And for those of you listening, heart tracks is just a song that our guests get to pick. All of our heart tracks are found on Heart Tracks 2. That's Heart Tracks 2 on Spotify. You can listen to the full playlist of heart tracks there. But Christy and Michelle, we need to know what the Big Wedding Planning Podcasters heart track is going to be for this episode.
Christy.
We had so much back and forth with this. And I wrote down heart tracks so that I can look it up and listen as well. But as wedding planners, having gone to, between the two of us, hundreds and hundreds of weddings, and we stay, till way after the last dance. But this is so corny, but there is one song that anytime it is played at a wedding, whether it's my family, my clients, a random wedding I'm walking past, and I hear this song, it will forever be the power ballad of weddings for me. And it makes me so happy. And then I was like, how do we say this for Brie and make it like more profound than that? And I think it's just a positive, silly, and it gets everybody up. It's also seems very basic to say it, but I pitched to Michelle and we settled on it, but we chose Don't Stop Believin' by Journey.
Oh, I love it. Yes.
And then Michelle was like, because I was like, everybody loves that song. Everybody knows all the words. Like I could sing it right now if it's in the car. Like it transports me to a wedding no matter where I hear it, because there's something about the dance floor and like everybody just knows it. And Michelle was like, it's about prostitutes and finding love on the street. And I was like, no, it's just about people finding love on the streets. And she was like, no, I think it's like the red light district. Yeah. And I was like, well, they're people too.
And actually I did read that, with Journey when I forgot which member wrote the song, but it is actually about overcoming and obstacles and the difficulty with them getting their stuff going and the city and like people walking the street and it's kind of hard, but it's, but everybody is a great song, and it is an amazing song. So good at karaoke.
And you know what? Here we go. I got you. Just for Christy, I'm gonna wrap this all in. Don't Stop Believing is the perfect song because after walking in these 2020 streets, this masterclass is gonna get people back on track with their wedding planning. You guys are helping people believe. So Don't Stop Believing is the heart track for this episode. Yes, Michelle. I see it.
Yay, you did that perfectly.
Boom.
Also, if you're a Sopranos lover like I am, the very last episode of The Sopranos, when it fades to black, that's the song playing.
Yes.
Which is a great show. I would watch it over again if I were you all. Like, you got HBO. Let's binge that, baby.
You should just do it.
But yes, Don't Stop Believing. 2021, 2022, the year of the weddings. It's coming back, baby.
That's right. Don't Stop Believing. That is our heart track. Christy and Michelle, thank you so much for being on Hearts and Stripes podcast. I am so grateful to have had the time to just have this conversation, unpack the masterclass, get the behind the scenes scoop on how you two became the dynamic duo that you are. And I just want to thank you so much for being a resource to couples out there as they navigate not just wedding planning, but you guys are giving like life lessons through your podcast. So from one podcaster to another, thank you so much for all that you do.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Brie, for having us, and happy planning, everybody out there. And yeah, we appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in. Remember to rate, subscribe, and review. This is Hearts and Stripes. We are the few, the proud, that aim high and are forged by love. Always ready, always there. We are Mill Marriage Strong.